Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, fellow Amazonians. Good afternoon, fellow scopers and scopresses. And welcome to the Scope Television program. And welcome to the show, the Talk the Talk. That is the program, Talk the Talk. And our topic for today will be the Swiss Talk. The Swiss Talk is something that is commonly it is spread all over social media. So I want to introduce to you this afternoon the Scopres, Dr. B. Good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon, Dora.
Good afternoon, Scopa Emmanuel, and welcome to the Talk show.
Good afternoon, Comrade Dora.
Thank you so much. Not to waste your time, I want to move over to some questions I have for you. And Scopres, Dr. B, without giving any sensitive information, can you give a brief summary of the activities during your workshop in Switzerland? And what is the most important thing that you learn as an individual? Thank you.
Just to give a slight corrective, Dora, it was not a workshop. While we were there, we had some sort of capacity building. This was a consultative talk for us as a people to indicate our willingness and our readiness to go into future talks with the government of La République du Cameroon. So that is actually the basis of this talk, and we should remember these consultative talks did not start this week. This was the second phase, and as I said, the most important thing was we had people from the representative from the Swiss Foreign Affairs, that is the authority which is in charge of such international programs, and also with the humanitarian dialogue, the non-governmental organization who is working in cooperation with who has been mandated by the Swiss government to at least offer the good offices of Swiss to us to see how we can find a pathway towards a structured negotiation for achieving our goals as an independent Federal Republic of Amazonia.
Thank you so much, Comrade Scope Emmanuel. Will you want to add something? What was the main theme or talk in your Swiss talk? Let me say the Swiss talk, and what did you learn? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Comrade Dora. Like Dr. B said, this was what I would call a contacting phase. Because after having been contacted, after the Swiss government had been encouraged to mediate in these talks, they had to make contact with both parties to know where their positions are. So this was a medium where the Swiss government, through its agent HD, took contact with us to tell us who they are and seek our opinion if we are prepared to engage in a peaceful negotiation. Over.
Thank you so much, Dr. B. You mentioned about capacity building, but I want to put it this way. Capacity building and confidence building goes hand in hand. So what are the steps you think should be taken in order to build confidence?
In what perspective are we supposed to build confidence? To build confidence between ourselves, or to build confidence within the international community? One thing that it should be clear in the process of confidence building is to find out how did the Swiss get to decide whether to offer their good offices or not. And for me, that was very, very important. So when they told us many Amazonians, movements, and individuals and organizations wrote to them, requesting for them to do something, to use their close contact to BIA, knowing that BIA is always around Geneva, to make sure to pressure BIA to come to table. And then when that happened, they had to take the time and consult with other key organizations like the EU, the UN, and other big countries that are relevant stakeholders to find out whether it is okay for them to use their good offices. And the people gave them the go ahead. And then they contacted the La République government, headed by President Paul Biya, and he said, yes, they can use their good offices. So that is why they went through a process of contacting us. And now it was, they have traveled, they have spoken to many Amazonians. So it is about, and also to some of the leaders that today will say A and tomorrow will say B. But that part, we are going to come, I believe by the end of this talk, we are going to come to that. So what I believe, and for me, every Southern Cameroonian, every Amazonian should know, we are on this by ourselves. Nobody is going to free us. And we are going to decide the Amazonia we want sooner or later. But in order for us to build confidence, you cannot build confidence if you do not understand the processes. You cannot build confidence if you do not ask the right question in the right time. You cannot build confidence if you are not even willing to even step ahead and listen. Then before you decide. So you conclude, you decide by having information, and the moment you get the information, if the information is not sufficient, you request for more information. But anything out of that is waste of time, because if you do not participate to get the information that will give you the confidence you need to address the situation, you have already failed by default. So I don't know whether I've answered the question sufficiently for now, but I think the aspect of confidence is not a time. It is not a state. It is a process. So it takes a process to be confident. And I hope part of what we are doing now, it is also part of that process of confidence building. The more we inform our people about what happened and what we expect, and with the knowledge that everybody is our potential enemy. So no matter how nice people talk to you, everybody is our potential enemy. People always act in good faith or in bad faith. But before I decide whether that person is acting in good faith or in bad faith, I must listen to what the person is saying. I see through his behavior, and then, but for me, I know everybody is our potential enemy, but I am willing to engineer the process so that we come out successfully. But the process still, that is another topic for another time.
Thank you so much, Scopres Dr. B. Scopa Emmanuel. In your opinion, what do you think the capacity building and confidence process, what would you want to say with respect to our community and with respect to the international community? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Commodore. I would say the confidence building, capacity building lies on our side, because the international community has opened a door through the Swiss government. It is for us now, Southern Cameroonians, to demonstrate to them that we are capable of going through this process and that we are capable of managing a country when that time comes. And how do we go about building that confidence? It is political education. We need to let our people know, or should I say our people should take their time, read and understand, ask questions and understand the process of negotiations, how the negotiation process is carried out, because this is the only way they will be able to understand at what stage what thing is done. And in the communique sent out by the team that was at Geneva, it was clearly written that the door is open. The door is open to all the movements. The door is open to all Amazonians who have something to contribute to this confidence building process. So we are asking all Ambazonians to educate themselves on the processes of negotiations and help to spread the information, educate others, so we all know what we are handling. And so we would know why it is necessary for us to come together so we can transmit this message out that we are working as one group. Over.
Thank you so much, Scopa. Emmanuel, I want to put it this way. You mentioned something about the door is open. But many people have this concern that how can we instill confidence within our people that the Swiss government and the HD will remain or be neutral during this process? Let me put that question to you, Scopa Emmanuel, that they will remain neutral within this process. That is my question.
Thank you, Commodore. The Swiss government, first of all, I want us to understand that just like every other Southern Cameroonian, I am also very skeptical of whoever partner, whatever organization is coming to mediate. But do we have another choice? We have no choice. This is the only choice we have on the table. And then now, when we go back and look at the history of Switzerland in peace building, we will see that Switzerland has been in so many initiatives like this. And so even if they had some interest, they have learned to take the middle path, to be neutral. And there is no way you can do anything without taking a risk. In the absence of any option, we are just bound to trust them. So that's what I would have to say.
Thank you so much, Scope Emmanuel, Scope Dr. B. In your opinion, will you want to agree with what Comrade Emmanuel just said about are we confident that the Swiss government, that is a really major concern out there with our people, and the HD is going to remain neutral during this process? Thank you.
You know, neutrality does not mean some people are indifferent. So I should say, I said before, my attitude is everybody is a potential enemy. Everybody is a potential enemy. That means we first have to do our work to prepare ourselves, understand the processes, understand how many pillars do we need? What are the technocrats do we need for the whole of this process? And since there is no time tag to the whole process, we have not even started, we have not even initiated, we have just indicated our readiness to talk. Since there have been international pressure saying both sides should come on the table without preconditions. So what I know is when people have reputation, Switzerland has been a peace broker for years, for decades. HD has been a peace broker, a mediator, not a peace broker, as herself as a mediator for more than 2 decades. And they work on their reputation. Switzerland has a reputation as a peace broker, and I don't think they will willingly or unknowingly decide to stain their own reputation. But that notwithstanding, if we give room, remember, the mediator does not play the game. The mediator is not the negotiator. Our negotiators are those of our Ambazonian citizens that we are going to choose to monitor, to be the one to talk for us. Our negotiators are going to be the technocrats. So depending on our preparation, the other side, we are going to win. So at the end of the day, the people can only monitor or mediate what we bring and how the whole process is being structured. They are responsible for the design of the process. But what we bring, it is our responsibility. It's just like if you are having a mathematics exam tomorrow and you go and read geography, Yes, you have spent 24 hours reading, but while you read the wrong subject, you can never go and give the good knowledge you have in geography, in mathematics. So that means we ourselves, we have to work hard, bearing in mind that we have an oppressor who has all the certificates when it comes to ill intentions. We have had our experience over the past six decades. So it should be something that should inform us, but it should not frighten us to that extent that we decide and think we can fight our way. Part of what I know it will bring us confidence is the knowledge to know that no, there is nowhere in history whereby the people fought and took over their country without ever negotiating. No. So if I'm wrong, somebody should go and prove me wrong and bring me that example where the people fought and they're now sitting within the table of nations without ever having negotiated anything. All of us remember what happened now between Eritrea and Ethiopia. We see how when the two countries came into a mutual agreement, that Eritrea was also accepted everywhere. So at the end of it all, you can only have confidence. Confidence comes with knowledge and not with empty arrogance and abusive emptiness.
Thank you so much, School President Dr. B. In fact, I'm really amazed by the kind of answers that you are giving because it's a learning process for me too. Yeah, Comrade Emmanuel, School Emmanuel, you have something to say.
Yeah, thank you, Comrade Dora. I just wanted to add that there is this notion that we cannot talk to La République. It's a false notion. I would just want our people to, that's why I keep talking of political education. I would like our people to go and look at the different cases that succeeded. Let them look at Slovenia, let them look at Timor. You have to talk to your opponent. You have to talk to him to be able to pave way for good negotiations. So we should try to educate ourselves and get the right way of thinking as we move on in this process. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Scopa Emmanuel. I want to come back to you. And what I wanted to ask you is something like, if things do not go as you actively plan, are you going to start looking for another negotiator or a mediator? Let me put it this way, or a friendlier nation?
Thank you, Comrade Dora. As it is now, from what I know, a huge chunk of the international community has given its support to the Swiss government in this initiative. So in as much as we are open to any other person who is ready to mediate, I think I may be wrong, but the best option we have here now is Switzerland, because they have been through this for decades alongside HD, and they have a reputation. And secondly, they are very neutral. They have never been a colonizer and all that, you know. So I would like someone to tell me the country that can really provide a better mediation than Switzerland without strings attached. Over.
Thank you so much, Scope President Dr. B. Will you want to consent to what he says? Because he's talking about, I'm looking at a situation like, okay, we are looking at the win-win. We are looking at good scenarios, good win-win, worst case scenario. What if this fails? Is your team, or are you thinking as a person, or is your team thinking of looking for a more friendlier nation or another neutral mediator? Thank you.
No, the thing is, when from the basic or the rudimentary knowledge I gathered over the past months, and yes, when it comes to a mediation, is if you are not at any given point in time within this process, if we should have the impression we are not getting the necessary honesty and the necessary transparency. And we feel the mediator is not that neutral. It is our right to halt the process and request for a mediator that will be accepted on both sides. Remember, the mediator must be accepted from both sides. It is not as if you bring your mediator, I bring my mediator, and then both of them, they meet somewhere. For sure, you can also have situations whereby you have more than one mediator. But it can also be a room to bring in more problems than we actually have. From my taking is, what will influence our success will be highly dependent on our negotiators. That is the Ambazonians that we put in front to talk, and the technical teams that will be there to work up all the dossiers and the documents and the policies that these negotiators should carry forward on the negotiation table. So negotiators are us. La Republic has its negotiator. We have our negotiator like Ambazonians, and then the mediator is just there to make sure everybody is comfortable with the way the process is ongoing. And at the end, we come into an agreement. And within the process of the agreement, all of us have to take informed decision and say, by the time I sign any agreement, that could take years, even the pre-steps. As I said, we have not even started anything even one word towards talking. It is just now about us accepting whether we are willing to follow the international recommendation from all corners of the world and say, yes, we are ready to talk. But maybe the talk itself, even start talking about the talk, it might take the next 1 year. Who knows?
Thank you so much, Scope Press Dr. B. This takes me to the next question about, you talked about maybe we have another team, it may bring some kind of confusion, or if we deem it necessary that we are not getting the amount of transparency or more information, we have the right to say appeal or look for another mediator. So this takes me to the next question that I want to put to you. Is there room for another body or mediation team to join the HD during this process?
No, I remember. I think I answered that question already. That yes, theoretically, in theory, there is room to say okay, but why can't we work on what we can work on? That is, build up our capacity in the area of our negotiators. We should always choose our battles correctly. We should always choose our resources correctly. Let us give HD now the chance to prove us wrong. As I said, we should not go in anywhere blindly. But the first thing is to trust somebody. Then let that person give you every reason to distrust him. For now, let us concentrate on not on how the mediator is, but on how can we build up our team, that no matter whether this thing came up in good or bad faith, we are going to turn it to our favor and have the Ambazonia that we deserve.
Thank you so much, Scope Emmanuel. Will you agree with what she said?
Yes, I would agree with what Dr. B said. And I also want to add that the success of the process depends almost entirely on us. If we build the necessary capacity, if we create the necessary environment in terms of confidence with the external partners, if we learn to understand that the road is bumpy and be patient and work hard when it gets rough, I think we should be able to work with one mediator. In course of our lectures, I can't remember very well, but precise examples, but I remember the case of Palestine. One of the mistakes they made is multiple mediators. And from the case studies we looked at, some of the cases failed because they had to change or use multiple mediators, and that brought issues that led to them not achieving the goal they wanted. So yes, it's open. We can change the mediator when we don't feel comfortable, but we must be careful. We must understand that it's going to be a very bumpy ride, and that it gets bumpy doesn't mean we should just blame it on the mediator and jump site. We have to look at our team, build the necessary cohesion, be patient, and get all the resources in terms of human resources and specialists that we need in the process. Over.
Thank you so much, Scope Emmanuel. Scope Emmanuel, you said something about multiple mediators, and many people have their own say on social media. Let me put it this way. Many people were worried, like, I want to put this question to you. Were you bothered by the fact that the Southern Cameroon's people, or all the groups that were there representing, or all the movements representing the Southern Cameroons, were referred to as, or referring to us as, opposition groups in Cameroons? Were you bored or bothered by that word?
Thank you, Comrade Dora. This is a very interesting question. Now, the Swiss government is a sovereign state. Cameroon government is a sovereign state. And the Southern Cameroon, as we know it now, internationally, is within Cameroon. What else? How else would you expect the Swiss government to refer to us without tampering its position as a mediator? Because if they refer to us as Southern Cameroon, and then they are already declaring us independent when we are not, and then they are already telling the world that they are siding with us, means they are using our own narrative. The only narrative that they can use and still maintain their international support and international image is a narrative that's recognized within international law. And that narrative is the narrative that sees us as it is now in the international eyes as part of Cameroon. And what else would they refer to us as? Opposition. We are an opposition that's asking for a restoration of its independence, not as an opposition that is struggling to take power in Cameroon or interested in the politics of Cameroon. We are an opposition group, but an opposition that wants its sovereignty. So to me, I do not see an issue in that. And we also have to remind ourselves that what they call us in an information communique should not really be an issue we should overflow. What we should bother about is building the process, preparing ourselves for the process. So we create the environment to push forward the narrative that we want. Over.
Thank you so much, Scope Emmanuel. Scope Dr. B, what would be your comment on this? Because some people were very angry when I went through, like, listening to what some people called me. They said, oh, this is what they think about us. It is like we are opposition. That means we are like SDF in Cameroon. I was like laughing because I was really wondering what kind of talk is that. So will you want to say something to what they called us as an opposition group in Cameroon? Scope Dr. B, thank you.
Since 2017, when we declared the restoration of our independence, we officially were opposing the de facto occupation of our territory. We were opposing the colonization of our territory. We were opposing the exploitation of our resources. We were opposing the mismanagement and miseducation of our kids. We were opposing the misappropriation and mispresentation of our legal system. We were opposing the fact that we have been going through an economic cleansing over the past 5-6 decades. is opposition meant to be a political party or a liberation movement? Is it not questioning the authority in place over the sovereignty, the ownership of the sovereignty? So for me, what I call myself is more important than what somebody else is called me. When the francophones say le Biafra, les Anglo, le Anglophone, is it something that would disturb you? Maybe it is I'm just trying to make this thing a little bit banal, because we are living in a world where international relationship and diplomacy, they have a language. I am not a schooled diplomat, but I know when they correspond issues, they have to be careful not to be seen taking sides already. So for me, it's just the mere fact that people are already seeing this thing as a crisis at the level at which they have to mediate between the two parties. Who are the two parties? Are they intervening between the parties of the political parties of La République? No. The two parties are the people of Southern Cameroons and the République du Cameroon. They called us to talk to us and not within the framework of a global Cameroon context. So that is part of the political education we need. That even when we are corresponding to the outer world, we have to watch the way we write, what we request from them, and what we request of them, because some of our letters, people do not get back to us because of we address issues in the wrong places and using the wrong expectations. So for me, it is also a learning process. So I'll beg for all of us to try to maintain our calm and say, yes, now the international community has recognized us as a people. They want to talk to us as a people. And within the framework, just like Comrade Emawe said, within the framework of the international, of the nation states, we are a subject under the République du Cameroon, Northwest and Southwest regions. So it is our responsibility to oppose that nomenclature and negotiate and go through that process of structured negotiation to acquire the Republic of Ambazonia that we deserve and we desire so highly.
Thank you so much, Scoper Dr. B. Thank you so much, Scoper Emmanuel. So I want to move on to the next set of questions. And this is how some people feel. And I would like to get a brief take on what you people want to tell the public. You know, we all know that Cameroon does not tolerate one nationality, but dictator Biya, the Hitler of Central Africa, has dual nationality. As a Swiss national, is a regular customer of one of the most famous hotels in Switzerland, and he has strong friendship ties with Swiss diplomats. The question is that will we perceive the Swiss government to be suitable in engaging dialogue or in setting up any kind of negotiations with respect to the aspect to who Dictator Biya is and what he has or how frequent he is in Switzerland. So I want to put this question to Scoper Emmanuel.
Yeah, thank you, Comrade Dora. This is a very critical question because it also, when we look at this question, we also see why it is Switzerland involved. Biya goes around with a Swiss passport. Biya spends a lot of his time in Switzerland. So somehow, the way I look at it, it becomes Switzerland's position to clean the mess Biya is creating, because not only is he a citizen, he spends most of his time there. And so this already becomes a heavy responsibility on the Swiss government to be as neutral as possible, because there are already strings tied. Biya is a Swiss. Biya spends a lot of money invest a lot in Switzerland. So to me, I see that it is Switzerland that should be the better person to mediate in these talks, and Switzerland would be the most neutral, given that there are already states that they would not want to stick onto them going through this process. Over.
Thank you so much, Dr. B. I want to put it this way to you. We already know, like I already said, what Bia has his ties, his diplomatic ties, his friendship ties with Switzerland, his nationality as a Swiss citizen. That gives me an impression that the president of Cameroon or La République de Cameroon is a citizen of Switzerland. That means he pays tax to the Swiss government and he's the president of his own country. That is really an irony, to me. And I want to put it to you this way: does that make the Swiss government to interfere with bad faith in the Southern Cameroon crisis because of beer?
The thing is, I go with Comrade Emmanuel. Actually, if there is a good bid for us, it should be Switzerland. We should remember, it's not only that beer is basically a citizen of Switzerland, so they have to clean up the mess. And on the other hand, also, Swiss, they certainly have investment not only on our side, they also have investment on the other side across the Mongo. So it would be good for them to stay neutral. And I think they have every reason to work as a neutral partner. But I said neutrality does not mean indifference. And that is actually where a smart mind would think. No matter where you go, whether even Germany, that is a big economy, is still inviting investors, giving them good conditions, telling them why they feel Germany is a good place to come and invest. Even within Germany, you have the federal states competing for investors, giving them why they feel, giving them incentives to come and invest. So what we should think about is, yes, I got rumors that even the state of Geneva is having some shares on our oil. So after 3 years, and they see that this thing is not going to cool down, being an investor, you are going to do everything to bring sustainable peace. And all of us know that sustainable peace comes only with justice. And it is now the onus is on us to tell the investors that we are as well a good partner. Because what our people should know, our case is to 90% on the legal food. We are 90%. We won the race to 90% already. But we are in a political war. And in a political war, you play the game of interest. How can we, over this period of negotiation, or during this period of us trying to acquire our territory, make those that are already invested on our territory and those that might be interested in the future Amazonia, to make sure that we look like the hub of future progress around the Gulf of Guinea? So for me, those are the questions that occupy me, because as I said, depending on how we do our own homework, that is how we are going to get the results we are going to get. So yes, I still think Switzerland can be a good a country through which we can say, okay, let them use their good offices to mediate within this our crisis. But if somebody thinks that he can bring in another country that has been waiting for the past 3 years for Switzerland to claim to offer her good offices, and then the person should come up with something else, then why not? It is the responsibility of the Amazonians to take up such opportunity too, and go through a SWOT analysis and see which of these two options can be good. But all that should not be intended. We should not allow the enemy use such thoughts to also manipulate us in wasting our time and pulling our legs while we lose lives continuously back there in ground zero.
Thank you so much, Scopress. Dr. B, you already mentioned something about the Switzerland, how they have to try to maintain their upright image. But, let's listen to this take and you give me your discourse, your comment. The Swiss talk is a second Fumban conference. Did you hear that? Did that really sound appropriate? What will be your comment on that statement? What are your comments, Dr.
So,
B?
I don't think we cannot say the Swiss talk because it can be a Fumban conference. Everything has a potential to succeed or to fail. We have to revisit the Fumban conference and see what went wrong. What went wrong in Fumban was like our people being a trustworthy and peace-loving people, and they believe that everybody walking into a room and calling you my brother is actually your brother. Our people went to Fumban ill-prepared. So we have not yet started the negotiation, and I am okay with the fact that people are throwing punches now, so that we should discuss on those punches and recall what happened in Fumban. Our people went to Fumban without any plan. They had no agenda. La Republic came with a draft constitution. They sat there correcting the constitution, and seemingly even one of them in their team had that constitution sometime ahead of time, did not share it with the team members. So yes, certainly, Fumban can repeat itself. It is not that the Swiss talk will be the next Fumban. Fumban can repeat itself if we go into any talk so very sheepishly without preparing. That is why I said, no matter how prepared you are, if you prepare the wrong course and you have no basic knowledge about what the next topic you are treating, you say it's going to fail. That's why I said, if you have mathematics exam tomorrow and you read all the syllabus for geography without preparing for mathematics, you will fail. You have gathered information, you have gathered good knowledge in another area, but you fail mathematics because the geography knowledge that you gathered was not sufficient for you to use it by let me say application for the mathematics examination. So that means we have to prepare each step wisely, take out our due diligence, come up with a strategy, understand the process, set up procedures, set up objectives, and then we move forward. So the talk should not be quantified as being Fumban, but if we do not revisit what happened in Fumban and try to redirect our energy in the right place, that is how we are going to set up our mediation team, then we are certainly going to go and write the wrong exam using the wrong knowledge. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Scopa. Emmanuel, will you want to make a comment about this?
Yeah, I'm not a specialist in conflict resolutions or negotiations or whatever, but what caused Fumban, what we remember it for today, is because our people were, I'll permit myself to say, naive. They were uneducated, and they did not understand these processes. Today, we have the internet, we have the resources that will enable us to educate ourselves, that will enable us to learn and know the processes. So it is up to us now to make sure that another Fumban doesn't repeat itself. Now, the contact phase we went to in Geneva, people have been saying lots about it, but I don't think they understand what if they try to school themselves on the processes, and then they will come to understand that what we met in Geneva for was just a contact phase and not even the pre-talks. and then they will change their rhetoric. There is also this notion that we have a beautiful legal case that if we just table in front of the community, the international community, we will get our independence. I'm very sorry to say that from the little I know about negotiations, that doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. Why? Because power will eat justice for breakfast. Over.
Thank you so much, Scopa Emmanuel. Scopa Emmanuel, I'm really with you. Still, I want you to make a take on this. You know, the EU and the US are looking for a common grounds. In this case, the people are talking about federation. That's how some comrades see it. The EU and the US are looking for a common ground. And in our case, they're looking for federation. So someone says that, and I will take this, the war cannot strategically seem to annoy Dictator Biya, the Hitler of Central Africa. It will appease him. Can you make a short discussion on this? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Commodore. The US cannot dictate the form of state in Amazonia or the Republic of Cameroon. So I think what our people is saying out there, it's not. These are not well-informed opinions. What the United States and the international community has requested for is unconditional talks. They have not asked for. They have not defined any form of government. Yes, maybe they have some interest, but what they have spoken is they want unconditional talks. We have indicated our interest to talk. What we have to do now is to educate ourselves on the processes and the roles of a mediator and a negotiator, and also understand the international implications of how we talk. So again, there is no country that will come and tell Amazonia what form of government they have to follow, or what form of government La Republique will follow, or the destiny of Amazonia. We have our destiny in our hands. We have to just learn the processes, know the things that we have to know, build our team, and go out there and grab our sovereignty. That's what I would say. Over.
Thank you so much, Scopa Emmanuel, Scopes Dr. B. Please, will you want to make a quick comment on this, that the war will definitely seek to appease Dictator Biya of the Hitler of Central Africa? What would you want to say?
Perceptions are at times very tricky. Perceptions might finally become truth, but perceptions might also deceive us to resign and not work hard to have the maximum possible results. Had it been the US and the world wanted to appease President Biya and give us federation, they would have done that things. So now, giving us the opportunity to negotiate the form of our state by ourselves, give us the golden button to use it. Either we use it and light our way through, or we bury the button on the ground, and then we say no, they are going to trick us anyway. And then, so that is why they said, study the examples that succeeded, those that succeeded, those that were fighting for self-determination and succeeded to acquire in the form of a pure independent state and a sovereign state within the nation of nation states, like Slovenia, Eritrea, Croatia, East Timor, of recent Kosovo. So there are other examples that succeeded to attain their level of self-determination through some sort of a federation or a confederation, like Quebec, like North Ireland, and other and other states. Some people might feel comfortable within that framework, or even New Zealand. The Queen is still their supreme leader, and they opted to stay out of Australia. While Australia said, okay, you people have the right to later on opt in to join us. So that is, but you also have people that have a certain level of autonomy. They fought and they have a certain level of autonomy. And you have people like no, Quebec is actually a more of a confederation, and you have people like how what was that again? I'll go through my notes later again and indicate. But you have people like not like Cyprus and etc. Let me go through that list again a bit. You have Taiwan, you have Transnistria, you have Kurdistan, and then even Somaliland. Somaliland fought militarily. He has been occupying, running his country for the past 25 years, but he's still not yet recognized as a state, as a nation state within other nations. And they are now going through that diplomatic process to have recognition. That also means at a given point in time, should Somalia say, okay, we are fine with the fact that Somaliland can join, then you see that it will be easy for the other nation states to recognize. So those are the things that our people should know. And those that, remember, for the past, since I started going down to Geneva, ending 2017, I've been working with the Tamils. All of us saw during the scope in Bizo, the video of what happened to the Tamils. Those people were militarily powerful. But at the end of it all, we have that aspect of reading the time of history, knowing where it is time to reduce the argument of force and increase the force of argument. And it is the same thing Palestine is suffering till today, because back then, yesterday when I was participating at the 41st session of the Human Rights Council, I took a picture because, you know, there is one item within the Human Rights Council, that is item 7. It is dedicated on issues relating to Palestine. For that means for the past how many years that issue is, and every year the issue of Palestine is on the agenda, on that item 7. And they had an exhibition yesterday, and they wrote something on a petition of Palestine. So I took a snap picture of that. Let me read what was written there. When the United Nations was founded in 1945, Palestine, considered as a holy land for Christians, Jews, and Muslims, was administered by the United Kingdom under a mandate received in 1922 from the League of Nations. Now we see similarities. In 1947, as the British mandate of Palestine was coming to an end, and the United Nations General Assembly proposed a petition of the land, it envisaged independent Arab and Jewish states and a special international regime for Jerusalem. The plan was accepted by the Jewish Agency for Palestine, but not by the Arab states, on the ground that it violated the provisions of the UN Charter, which recognized the respect of the principle of self-determination of peoples. In 1948, as a result of the war between Israel and the neighboring Arab states, almost 750,000 Palestinians were uprooted, dispossessed, and became refugees. The State of Israel was established in 1948. The Arab state Palestine did not come into being. So, back then, the Arab states knew they have all the military force to conquer Israel. But up till today, the question of the state of Palestine has not yet been answered because people refused to talk then and to come into agreement back then. So there's one thing that is common. It seems as if everywhere the UK was finally ended up with issues, with unresolved issues. But what I'm trying, why I brought up this thing is we have many examples in history, and none of these examples ended up with people just fighting endlessly and won the war. Most of, at the end, all of these people had to come to table and talk and come into agreement. Some of the agreements will be broken along the line and re-amended and amended, but we still need to talk. So why can't we, while we improve on our argument of force, also improve on our argument of our force of argument, and read the international climate that is going to give us the opportunity to take informed decision, because timing is very, very important. Today, our crisis might look might attract international attention. We don't know what will happen tomorrow, that people will then focus somewhere, and while the genocide is continuing on our territory. Let us use this opportunity now to initiate a process that is going to lead to us having the Amazonia we are so dear fighting for.
Thank you so much, Dr. B. Thank you so much for the elaboration. I want to move over to the next question. I want to put it to Scopa Emmanuel. So Scopa Emmanuel, many people say this thing. I just want a brief take about this. Somebody says we don't need France, no Britain, no European country or any country in the African Union that has interest in Amazonia to participate in dialogue and mediation. So what is your take? What would be your take you give to people? Because that is like, I'm not understanding whether we are totally living in space or we are isolated. So, or how? What do you want to tell people? Any country with interests should not participate in any mediation or dialogue in our case. Comrade Emmanuel.
Thank you, Commodore. I don't know. I think we need to understand. I'm not a specialist, but I take my time to read about things I don't know before I speak. But yes, France has interest, and many other countries have interest. But just like I said, in as much as the US has interest on the maritime route in the Gulf of Guinea, so has France interest in investments and businesses in Cameroon. But none of these people, no matter how much interest they have, can influence this process if we sit down and do what we are supposed to do our homework to make sure that we follow a model like the model of Slovenia and do the right things when we have to do them and how we have to do them. So yes, France has influence, the US has influence, but none of them would dictate what Amazonia wants if Amazonians take the time to understand the process, learn the examples, and learn the mistakes of those that failed, and try to design and follow a process that it's a good example to success. So I don't really think if we do our homework, build the cohesion we are supposed to build, and do the right things, any influence of France or US or Belgium would have anything to do with what we come up with. Over.
Thank you so much, Scopa Emmanuel. Scopres Dr. B, please, can you make a comment? No country that has interests should be a participant of any dialogue or negotiation with regards to Amazonia. Any country that has interest. Will you want to agree with that?
Yeah, you remember I said to 90%, our case legally is solid. but we live in a world of politics. And I would beware of any country that is coming to play a role within the to solve this problem, and that person has nothing to lose. Then that person is potentially trying to keep himself in the, can potentially put himself in the good books of La Republique, because if somebody know the moment the moment we keep fighting on our territory, those that have businesses of on our territory, they will make it their business to make sure that we come into an agreement that is agreeable for us, so that this struggle should not come back again sometime later. But if you go and take a country that has nothing to lose, it means that he can also do things to thwart it in a direction that is unfavorable for us. Then he will be on the good books of La Republique. Tomorrow, they might need to elect the next United Nations Secretary General. And then they say, you remember, we helped you with your Amazonia problem. Help us win this election. So beware of he who says, I have nothing to lose, because certainly he has something to gain.
On this is getting very, very serious. It is really an eye-opener, and we have to look on both sides. I want to say that, like you said, Amazonians will have to decide what they want at the end of the day. And somebody says that nobody can govern you without your consent, and nobody can make you feel inferior without your consent. That is all about this negotiation. That's how I'm looking at it. But I want to move over to this talk. Dr. B, I am getting a lot of information, and most people keep insisting. Like, I hear statements most often like demilitarization of the southern Cameroons, unconditional release of all Amazonian prisoners of conscience. So I want to ask you a simple question. At what level of the talk do we make demands of this nature? Are we already there? Can you tell
Dora, what is interesting
something about this?
Yes. Dora, Comrade Dora, what is interesting is, if you do not give somebody the mandate, to mediate for you, under what capacity should that person be requesting for a good gesture to show a sign of goodwill? If you do not give a mandate for somebody to serve as a mediator to solve a problem, under what capacity should that person go ahead and be requesting for a sign of good gesture to make the process run smoothly? As a matter of fact, it is beyond question that at the end of the day, President Siseko and the other leaders in jail are going to be the one to lead the whole of this process. Everything has to move in a structured manner. First, they have to say, yes, we are ready for talk. That is what they call the contact phase. The Swiss government provides his good offices to offers you his good offices to solve the problem. And then he says, these are the agents, these are the NGO, the agents, that the experts within my territory, that I would mandate them to play that role. If those people contact you and they request of you that the Swiss government wants to offer his good offices to mediate in this issue, to facilitate by providing a mediator for this problem. If you have not yet gone as far as to say, yes, I'm ready for talk, under what capacity should that person go ahead and say, show a sign of goodwill, because those people are questioning whether you are doing this thing in bad or good faith? Show as a matter of goodwill that you are ready and release the prisoners. That phase, we are still not at that phase. That is when they say it talks about the talk. You see, During the phase, after the contact phase, we have time to build cohesion within us, to educate our community, try to structure our negotiation team. And on the other hand, they can say, okay, we can then start demanding for the talk to effectively happen. Before we even go about drawing an agenda to what you have to show us the sign of that these talks are being organized in good faith, release all our political prisoners. But before we accept that we are ready for a talk, we do not have that capacity to start requesting for good faith gestures. Since the international community said, come into the talk without conditions. Just like La Republique was saying, yeah, we are going to go into talks, but the question on cessation and this is not supposed to be there. They said no. And just like we said during the first meeting, the question on the status of Southern Cameroon shall be part of the conclusion of the talks. But before then, we have to first accept and show our readiness to talk. Then we can go the next step to say, okay, now we have shown our readiness. Show us that you are acting in good faith by releasing our leaders, because they are key to the success of the whole of this process, and also release all our prisoners as a sign of good faith, because you had no reason in the first place to arrest them. So just tell me, under what condition should the HD go and or through the HD should talk to the Swiss government to go and request for the release of our leaders or of our citizens if we do not consent to say we are ready and willing to talk?
Thank you so much, Scope Press Dr. B. I don't want to move over to Scope Emmanuel because you already spoke something about the various stages of the talk. But I want to move over to the question, Scope Emmanuel. Scope Emmanuel, some people believe that the Humanitarian Dialogue Center is committed to finding a lasting, sustainable, peaceful solution to the plight of the Southern Cameroon's people. But others have this fear, like the Swiss government's position is not clear on this issue. I just want you to make a brief comment because we have said quite a lot about the fate of the Switzerland government. Just a brief comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Comrade Dora. I don't know why the other people think that the Swiss government's position is not clear. The Swiss government has made it clear that they are ready to mediate in the talk. That's out there. They are ready to mediate in the talks, and they have made available HD as their partner to be the mediator. It's for us now to do our own homework, prepare ourselves, get our negotiators, and bring them to the table, and then carry out our studies to see those countries that succeeded in processes like this, those that did not succeed, and make our strategies and come to the table. That's all what's needed. So I don't see why we need to hang on that communique. The intention is on the ground. We can mediate. So it's up to us. Let's stop making mountains out of anthills. Over.
Thank you so much for your brief comment, Dr. B. Scope Press Dr. B, would you want to make a brief comment on this, or you just want to agree with what Comrade Emmanuel is saying?
No, I just agree with what Comrade Emmanuel is saying, because when people start interpreting things too much, we can lead to several interpretations. Let us at times learn to take things the way they are, and then in due time, we are going to have time to question any misgivings that we might be having.
Thank you so much. At times when we get so critical, somebody says that I saw what somebody says, I saw deception and I reap an empty tray of cookies. So I saw a lot of arguments. Sowing is to like plant. a lot of anticipation, a lot of falsehood and deception, and some kind of anticipation. And I reaped an empty tray of cookies. So that is something where I saw a lot of arguments and I reaped an empty tray of cookies. So sometimes we have to listen and also think, what are we supposed to do? So we coming back to that question. So I want to ask you, Dr. B. Some people say, I don't like the way we were referred to as people of the northwestern and southwestern Cameroon. That word Western Cameroon came into my mind. I was wondering. So, as the Swiss people refer to us as this, it is when we, the activists, we came out on social media and we said, oh, this is what is happening. Then people said, okay, we don't like the way we're referred to as opposition groups. You've answered that question. We don't know the way we are referred to as the people of the northwestern and southwestern part of Cameroon, that they are not comfortable with that. So, Dr. B, I wanted to make a short take on this. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we took that question also to us. We are working within the framework of international law. And as of now, the Club of Nations, they recognize the Republic of Cameroon, constituted of 10 regions. And within that falls the Northwest and the Southwest regions. It might not suit us because for us, that is Southern Cameroon, that is Ambazonia. But working within the framework of international, of the Club of Nations, let me not say international, of the Club of Nations, it is not wrong for Switzerland and their government to address us that way. But it is our right to oppose to be addressed in that manner. And I appreciated when the mediators came up and said, we have been mandated to mediate between the government of La République du Cameroun and the pro-independent groups of Southern Cameroons, which is what we are per UN definition per Article 1608.
Thank you so much. I like that word, the pro-independent group of the Southern Cameroons. Comrade Emmanuel, did you feel happy when you heard that word? Just a short comment.
Yeah, it took us a lot of time to get to a description and a name that actually represented us, but still was within the frames of international law. So pro-independence groups of the Southern Cameroons is, I think, the best way we could refer to ourselves now, as compared to the way the Swiss government referred to us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Comrade Emmanuel. Last but not the least question, it's like, is the Swiss talk connected or a continuation of the Brussels talk?
Thank you, Comrade Dora. That's an interesting one. Mm-hmm. No, the Swiss talks, not the Swiss talk, the Swiss contact meeting is very different from the Brussels capacity building initiative. The Brussels capacity building initiative was pioneered by an independent NGO called the European Institute of Peace, of which the Swiss government is also one of the founding members. But the Swiss government had nothing to do with the Brussels initiative. It was pioneered by the European Institute of Peace. Over.
Thank you so much, Dr. B. What would be your comment about it? Is the Swiss talk, something, this is a very hot talk. Somebody says that, the Swiss mafia, the Brussels mafia, that is how somebody's calling it. It is like really using a knife and using Italian words like mafia. Is it a continuation or are they connected? Or what exactly is this connection between the Swiss, what you people did in Switzerland, and what took place in Brussels a couple of weeks ago? Thank you.
Since I was not present in the Brussels meeting, and from the resolutions I saw, it was meant to be a capacity building meeting that is what I will leave it at. In Brussels, Comrade Emmanuel rightly said it was organized by the European Institute of Peace, an independent NGO, and also in what we had, these contact talks, this contact phase for us was organized by the HD. Those are two independent entities, and so I cannot say it is a continuation of one or the other.
Thank you so much, Dr. B. In your closing remark, what is the assignment? You people have talked quite a lot about, we don't have a lot of time on our site, but you've talked about our assignment, the exercise we have to do, our to-do, because we as Ambazonians, no matter whosoever is the mediator, the job, we have a job description. We have to carry out an exercise. We have to do our homework, our assignment very well. So what is the assignment that Ambazonians are supposed to start carrying out? What should they be doing now? What should Ambazonians be doing? Rather than crying on social media, crying foul and shouting and ranting. So tell us, what is the assignment in a few words that Ambazonians should do? Thank you.
No, the first is to accept that we are living in a period where we have to improve and our capacity, yes, in the area of argument of force, but also refine our capability in the area of the force of argument. And that means people should take time and reflect and try to go through the vast access of information we have. We should avoid making ourselves literate, uneducated people, because we might be literate, but we are not educated. Let us educate ourselves to understand the differences between a mediation and a mediator, between a mediator and a negotiator, who provides the mediator and who provides the negotiator. When we have come to accept, to understand those two things, then we ask ourselves, what competencies, what strategy can we put in place to actually get a 1000% Ambazonia that we are fighting for? Not an Ambazonia that will be carrying over all of the debts, or not an Ambazonia that will be hanging out without electricity for years and all that. So we have too many areas, and we need even somebody who is just cleaning the streets will have something to offer within that process, if we should just reflect a while and then try to build up the technical think tanks that will be needed, and to facilitate the process, and also to engineer our way, our minds through this process of identifying the best negotiators for us within our Ambazonian constituency. So that is the assignment we have. Self-education, and then after you educate yourself, educate your neighbor.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Comrade Scopa Emmanuel. What is the assignment? What is the homework that our people need to do?
Yeah, thank you, Comrade Dora. Just like Dr. B was saying, self-education and education of our neighbors. Because again, I would say it again, power eats justice for breakfast. So that we have a good legal case does not mean we are there. We need to learn the processes of negotiation. We need to understand how the processes work. We need to understand the roles of the negotiator and the role of the mediator, and be able to select the competencies that we need to make sure this process is successful. And we also have to take our time to study the cases that have taken place. We have Slovenia in Africa, we have Eritrea, we have South Sudan. Learn them, see what they did well, what they did not do well, and make sure we transmit that to all our people. So by the time we are going to the table, we are ready for the process. Over.
Thank you so much, Scopres Dr. B. Thank you so much, Scopa Emmanuel. Thank you so much, fellow viewers of Amazonia. Thank you so much, dear Scopers. Thank you for the Talk show. That is the new platform for this on the Scope Television. The Talk show. That is it. That is the point. The Swiss talk. In fact, our people need to be educated, to be sensitized, to be enlightened. Political education is the key. You know, like you said, educated, illiterate. Someone says they're educated, but they are not learned. Because knowledge is the acquisition of information, but wisdom is the way you apply that information, and counsel is the ability to draw out what is in you, not what we are hearing on social media. Noise on social media, background radiation, background noise. That is what we need to desist from those things. And we need to also educate our activists to be very to understand that it's not everything we do somewhere or we have to do something that needs to be on social media, because most of the cries and the answers and the worries are common sense does not govern the war. Like you said, the war is a political sphere, very complicated, complex political sphere. That is where we are. That is what we have to do. We have to do our homework well. And it is not like we are already signing some documents, but like you rightly say, I have understood that this is just the initial stage of something, that we will need technocrats, we need experts in the days ahead. We even maybe need foreign experts. We have to study other negotiations, those who won, those who failed, those who are still in the process of coming to where we are. So I want to use this opportunity to thank Amazonians and to thank you, Amazonians, Dr. Benedict and Comrade Emmanuel, for the good job. I want to thank you so much for the education, the information, which is the oxygen of the modern age in the Amazonian Common Revolution. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you again. We'll keep updating our people, we'll keep talking to them, I'll keep making them to understand what this issue of mediation and who is the negotiator and who is the mediator and what are their rules, who are the people that will talk for Amazonia, who speaks for Amazonia. That is why we have this program. Thank you so much and have a nice weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, Comrade Dora, and thank you, Scope TV.
Thank you.